Welcome to Cup Check, the best sports radio show in the world on WODU Radio, the best in college radio, obviously. They have the best sports show in the world. Tyler will be a little late. His lab ran a little over, but for now you got me. So it's kind of become a Thursday thing, just me. I bet you guys like that. But so we got on tap here. We got a little bit. Jonathan Dwyer. Yeah, he combined Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson into one person. So we'll see. Get our takes on that. A little baseball here since it's become playoff time. Both the local teams, so to speak, the O's and Nats, capture a playoff spot. Who do we think has the best chance to win it all? We'll find out. Talk about the NL wildcard race. Both wildcard races, really, and see who we think's going to come out of that in the end. Then we got our NFL power rankings. We mentioned that a little bit on Tuesday's show there, but we just ran out of time since it was a little short. And then we're going to finish off with a couple games to watch for in the NFL, kind of games of the week, so to speak. So we'll get started on Jonathan. No, we'll start with baseball. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to baseball at all, but the two local teams here in Norfolk, if you want to say they're local, the Nationals and the Orioles, both clinched a playoff spot 3 days ago. I think the night of our Tuesday show they clinched. Um, Now they're kind of going for a home field advantage. It looks like the Orioles and the Nats will probably both get it. So that's going to be something that it's good to see, especially for these two teams. The Orioles, even without Chris Davis, who got suspended for 25 games for having what was, for having illegal substances, so to speak. Not illegal, but they kind of broke the code with Adderall is what he had for his attention deficit disorder. But he's not in the lineup, and they're still doing very well. And actually, Adam Jones was running around when they clinched, throwing actual pies, like pecan pies and stuff, in fans' face. A lot of people didn't like that, but that's kind of the fans liked it, obviously, if you watch the video, and it was kind of fun to see them interact. Nobody got hurt, nothing like that. So it was fun to kind of see the players have fun with the fans and kind of who've been there to support the team the whole way through. And the Nationals, the big story there was Bryce Harper wore a fireman's helmet during the celebration. He contacted one of the firemen, and they got to him in like 3 days, which was pretty cool. But they're both looking pretty good going into the playoffs. The Orioles have a little different layout than most teams do, though. The Orioles, in the sense that they don't have that one ace. They don't have that one ace pitcher who kind of comes out and throws, and you know it's going to be a win. They have a combined unit of pitchers who can. One guy will go for five, and they know the guy after him will go two and give up a couple hits, but no runs. And then a closer is going to close it out. They don't have that dominating pitcher like a Kershaw or even a Strasburg. Now maybe not so much, but sort of like that, a Lester, people like that, where the Nationals have that sort of. They have Strasburg and Soriano coming out. They have one of the best runs as well. The Nationals there, scoring ninth in runs overall this year. Their batting average is top 20, on base is 10th, slugging's 10th. So their bats are really there. Their pitching is one of the best in the league. Like I mentioned, the second best in the ERA at a 3.06 ERA. Quality starts second, wins are whip fourth, and then batting average against 11th. Yeah, they drop out of the 10 to 11. That's not something to look down upon. They did lose to the Braves last night, but the Braves are really trying to fight for a spot in the wild card. But we'll see if they can make it. And then the Orioles, they're seventh in runs, and this is when Chris Davis has been having a down year and he's not there, and they're still seventh in runs. Eighth in batting percentage, 20th or 17th top 20 in on base, and third in slugging. And like I mentioned, their pitching, they don't have that one guy, but they're seventh in ERA. 25th in quality starts. Again, it's not really the starters that do it for them. It's the whole combined group of pitchers that does it for them. Their WHIP is 12th at 1.25, and the batting average against is 10th at they're having batters about 244, which is pretty good to hold the opposing team to 244, and that's why both of them made the playoffs pretty convincingly, both way over 500. The Orioles 92 and 60, and then the Nationals at 87 and 64. and it looks like they'll probably get home field advantage in the playoffs. But if you look at it right now, the Orioles would be playing versus Detroit, who leads them in the series so far when they've played 5-1, which isn't a good kind of omen for them. But I think the Orioles have a better chance than the Nationals just because they're deeper in that kind of bullpen type thing that I talked about, a lot of quality players, and they don't have to face the Cardinals or the Dodgers in their side. Yes, they have to face the Tigers, who the Tigers, if they have their pitching on, they're really good, but they've been struggling here and there. Yeah, I think the Orioles have the chance to turn this 5-1 around, and I think they can actually beat the Tigers. And then they got to play the Angels. Because I'm gonna assume the Angels are gonna beat Oakland or Kansas City, and Kansas City's came out of nowhere this year, and Oakland has just been there all the time, the past 5 years or something, but they just haven't been able to get over that hump and get to the next level and make it to the World Series. So I think the A's are coming out of that. And the A's and Orioles, the A's have been on just fire offensively, but pitching wise, they've been doing good recently. But will it hold up is the thing. I mean, to test to the batting of the Angels. I mean, they're first in run, fourth in average, fifth in on base, and fifth in slugging. They don't drop out of the top five in any on base, any batting thing. In ERA, they only cracked the top 10 twice, and they cracked the top 5 once, with 13th ERA, 22nd in quality stars. Their whip cracks the top 10 at 7th, and their batting average against cracks the top 5 at 4th. But I just don't see them having the pitching they need to win it all. Yeah, they may beat the Orioles, but we're going best chance out of the Orioles or Nationals, you got to give it to the Orioles just because of the way they've been able to put the bat on the ball and then cause the other team to just whiff at everything. The Nationals, though, the Nationals they got the kind of screwed over in this situation because they're probably going to play either the Pirates or San Francisco unless Milwaukee does something within the next 5 games, 10 games. I think they have 10 remaining. Yeah, and the Pirates have 11 and San Francisco has 10. So unless the Pirates or San Francisco tank it away and Milwaukee does very well, I think Milwaukee's 2.5 back. But unless Milwaukee does something, it's going to be a game. It's going to be Pittsburgh at San Francisco. They're actually tied right now in the standings, so that could change to San Francisco at Pittsburgh. But Nationals are going to have to play the winner of that, and both of those teams have been stellar this year. I mean, San Francisco's got the second best winning percentage in the league right now, but they're behind it. They're in a league with the Dodgers. They're 84 and 68. Pirates are 81 and 70. 84 and 68 ties them with the Cardinals, who are winning the National League Central, because they're behind the Dodgers. The Dodgers, they were my pick at the beginning to win it all, and I think they will. It'll probably be Dodgers, Angels, which everybody would like to see, especially West Coast, but time change and all that. But the Nationals, I don't even know if they can get past the Pirates or San Francisco. The way this Pirates or San Francisco is playing, yeah, they're very good. I mean, the Nationals, you can't say enough about their pitching. Bryce Harper, he hits the ball well. Desmond, I mean, you can't say enough about them. But the Pirates in San Francisco, if the Dodgers weren't having a phenomenal year, San Francisco would be winning that division by a landslide. I mean, they are just head and shoulders above many teams in that division, in the NL West, that is. But the Dodgers are just a little bit better, 86 and 66. I'm not seeing San Francisco past them. It is a possibility, but I don't see that happening. So the Dodgers would play the Cardinals. The Cardinals are always there. And that's another thing. The Pirates have to go through just a brutal season, and that's why I think San Francisco is probably going to beat them in the wild card, just because San Francisco's got the Giants to worry, or San Francisco, sorry, has the Dodgers to worry about, where the Pirates, the Milwaukee's been there. The Reds are still there. I mean, the Reds aren't in playoff contention, but the Reds have been recently, and the Cardinals are winning the division right now. So I think the Pirates may be a little out of gas, and if the Pirates do win that, I can see the Nationals moving on to the next round. But I think San Francisco wins versus the Pirates, and I think San Francisco beats the Nationals pretty handedly, I'd say. If they can get good pitching out of Lincecum and the bunch, they could compete for, maybe we see an NL West National League pennant here with either the Dodgers or San Francisco coming out of it. And I think that's going to happen. And again, the Dodgers coming out. And I think Oakland doesn't have a shot. They're good, but they have enough? I'm not sure. Yes, they have really good pitching what wins it, but if one pitcher goes awry, we'll see. They could lose versus Kansas City, who came out of nowhere. Kansas City, I don't think has enough firepower to deal with just the offensive beast that Los Angeles is. And then the Tigers, I could see the Tigers beating the Orioles, but out of the two, Orioles or Nationals, I'm taking the Orioles to have the best chance to win it all. But it's going to be a stretch for either of them, too. It's going to be difficult. Going on the wild card for a minute, I talked about that quite a bit, but Pittsburgh, Milwaukee's 2.5 back. San Francisco's tied with Pittsburgh. That's going to really determine who gets home field advantage on all this. Pull up the stats here and see what's what. But yeah, San Francisco and Pittsburgh are tied. Pittsburgh's got one more game to play. They got 11, where San Francisco's got 10. Milwaukee's 2.5 back with 10, and then Atlanta's 5.5 back. Atlanta's got to do a lot if they want to get into it, but I don't see them doing that. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. Seattle, the Mariners are just 2 games out versus Oakland and Kansas City. I think both of those teams, out of the two, Kansas City would be the one that drops, I think, because they kind of just showed up out of nowhere. Oakland's been up there at the top for a while now, but I don't see either of them losing either, so I'm gonna say it'll stay how it looks. Maybe Oakland at home over Kansas City and Pittsburgh home over San Francisco. But I think we have our lineup of games for the playoffs with only 10 games, 11 games, 12 games left. Looks like it's going to be in the National League, Pittsburgh or San Francisco versus the Nationals, and Cardinals versus the Dodgers. We'll say I'd like to say Pittsburgh. I like Pittsburgh. I like the Pirates, but I'm going to say San Francisco wins. San Francisco beats the Nationals. The Dodgers beat the Cardinals. The Dodgers beat the Giants to move on to the World Series. And in the AL, say Oakland wins over Kansas City. The Angels, and I'll go Orioles. Angels and Orioles. Angels win. Dodgers, Angels. I think Dodgers have the better pitching staff and the best pitcher in the league, heading by far. Although the Angels have the best player in the league, not on the mound, with Mike Trout, who's just having a remarkable season. So it'll be an interesting one, and I think that's going to be the World Series, and Dodgers win in 7. It's going to be an interesting one, and people need to go ahead and give baseball a look, because that's been something that's kind of been thrown to the wayside with everything going on in the NFL and the NBA and then high-powered draft class. I think a lot of people need to kind of take a look at what the baseball field is kind of giving us and enjoy it. That's one thing that hasn't really happened a whole lot. People aren't really enjoying baseball as much as it used to be enjoyed back in the day. That's why me and Tyler had that debate on, is baseball still America's this time sport? And it's not. It was the pastime, and that's kind of what it is. Football's taken over. But I think this series kind of puts baseball back on the map, something that it really needs. So we'll go into Jonathan Dwyer. He combined both a Ray Rice and an Adrian Peterson into one event. So apparently he headbutted his wife or fiance, one of the two. I don't remember if they were married, engaged, girlfriend, something like that. But he apparently headbutted her and then beat his child. Yeah, that's it's the thing is his wife and struck his son. He's 2 accounts of aggravated assault, of course, one against the wife, one against the son. But he's not out of the league. He's still not thrown out of the league. If you're going to throw Ray Rice indefinitely out of the league, which would happen, Adrian Peterson has taken some time off, is being forced to take time off. Adrian Peterson went on this special list that a whole lot of people don't get on, and that's what Dwyer's on. Yet Dwyer did the same thing. He punched his wife with a closed fist on the left side of her face. and he also punched some walls and threw a shoe at his son. He hit his wife. Didn't Ray Rice just get thrown out of the league for that? Yes, yes, he did. Ray Rice literally just got thrown out of the league last week due to the fact he hit his wife, because it was 2 games and then a video came out and that made a whole swarm of difference. So therefore he had to be kicked out of the league. But then somebody like Dwyer does, and he's placed on reserve non-injured list. What is this? Why? If he did the same thing Ray Rice did, why isn't he kicked out of the league? Yes, due process. We got to see how the court does, and maybe that's what they're waiting on. But you can't take one stance and then do something else. He at least needs to go on the, 10 games suspension? Where is Goodell? And then Goodell with this Adrian Peterson thing, he did it in the middle of the night. Everybody did it in the middle of the night. Was there a press conference where Goodell's like, yes, we're putting Adrian Peterson on this list. He will be on that list until everything's done and everything's talked about and all that. No, they did it in the middle of the night. That's a saying. It was done in the middle of the night, like the Baltimore Colts who moved up to Indianapolis. Happened in the middle of the night. Really sketchy, trying to hide something. Oh, the NFL did that as well, just now, with Adrian Peterson. They did it in the middle of the night. Why? Because they're trying to hide something, trying to be a little sketchy. Does that seem right? Yet Dwyer still nothing. He's on this injury reserve list. That's it. Injury reserved. Or not injury reserve, non-injury reserve list. So that's what's going on. That doesn't seem right, does it? Adrian Peterson's got to take time off for beating his son, or for disciplining his son, but we'll call it beating because that's what we want to do. So he's got to take time off. Yet the Cardinals don't do anything about this. And that, by the way, the Cardinals can get rid of him. That's what happened with Ray Rice. The Ravens got rid of him. The Ravens said, okay, enough is enough. Nope. Instead, they cut Rainey. Chris Rainey is who they cut from their practice squad. They didn't cut Dwyer, the guy who just hit his wife and threw a shoe at his son, and it hit him. Didn't cause any severe injuries, but it hit him. And then Dwyer also headbutted his wife, breaking her nose because she refused sexual advances, sorry. Yet he's still in the league. Right now, he's still in the league. On non-football injury list, reserve list. He's in the league. Still, getting paid. Making millions. He's going to continue to make the base salary. His base salary is $730,000. So not millions, but he makes $730,000 in a season to not play at all. But he's going to make money after he broke the nose of his wife. I don't see how that's any different than Ray Rice. Ray Rice knocked his fiance out. Okay. He knocked her out. You broke her nose. You broke the nose of your wife and threw something at your son, and yet you're still allowed to be in the league. There's no debating, oh, well, we got to see what happens at court. You can tell a woman's nose is broken. That's not something weird. I'm sure she had a black eye. Like, it's not like, oh, well, he fractured my spine or, like, my rib. I mean, you have to get doctor evidence. You have to get all that. A broken nose is pretty obvious. You got a big lump on your nose, probably some blood when you break your nose. He headbutted her in the face, yet he's still in the league. He's still in the league. I don't know what else to say. He should be gone now, and this just attests to the fact that Roger Goodell has no control on any of this, and he's not even trying, because somebody would be at the doorstep telling him he's out of the league, or he'd be holding a press conference to say he's out of the league. Or he could do it in the middle of the night, because that's what they like. Apparently the NFL likes to be sketchy and do stuff at the middle of the night, because that's how they did Adrian Peterson. They took Ray Rice forever to do, and they had the video. Came out, they did have the video, yet no, we didn't have the video. it's not. He's still in the league. Dwyer is still available for you to pick up on your fantasy team. You won't get any points, but he's still listed as a player for the Arizona Cardinals. Getting $730,000 a year. I think it was $43,000, $42,000 some change per game. So he's going to be sitting at home watching the game, still getting paid. I wish, I think everybody wishes they could make $23,000 just on a random Sunday, for cracking your wife's nose wide open, for headbutting her. But you know what? It's the NFL. It's okay, right? Goodell, I'm not going to take a stance on it. Oh, I made a stance, but we don't want to really enforce it, right? Right? That's what we're at. That's what it is. Some injury news. AJ Green is back practicing with the Bengals. I think that's a good thing to see, especially if you're a fantasy owner of him. One of the best receivers in the league, probably number 2. Calvin Johnson 1, him 2, Brandon Marshall 3. I think that's a fair assessment. AJ Green is back. He had a hurt toe, something like turf toe, he said, but it wasn't as bad as that. Today's the first day he practiced. We'll see if he's ready for the game on Sunday. I believe they play Sunday. So we'll see if they're ready for Sunday. But it kind of comes down to, looks like it's going to be a little bit of game time if you're a fantasy fan. Probably a little worried right now. Should I start him? Should I not start him? It was projecting him at 0, so they weren't expecting him to play. So we'll see what happens there. Right now he's on my bench, but we'll see if I need to put him out there, I will. Jamal Charles is practicing as a surprise. Due to his high ankle sprain, a lot of people weren't expecting him to kind of come out and practice. They weren't expecting him to play. That happened last week, obviously, against the Denver Broncos. It's still uncertain if he's going to play, but a quick return shows that it's pretty highly he'll be back. Maybe not this week, but next week. He really wants to get out there and work on his game, and hopefully he can do that. He probably should be resting that ankle up some, especially a high ankle sprain. They're nothing to play with, as we see RG3 is out now. At least 8 weeks for that, so that's not something you want to see, unless you like Kirk Cousins. If you're a Kirk Cousins fan, you're obviously thinking he's going to be take you to the promised land. But Tyler's here.
Kirk Cousins is the promised land for Washington.
Yeah, well, it raises a question. What happens if he wins? We talked about this. 2/3 of his games.
Then
do you
Redskins just traded away 3 first-round picks for someone that's being benched.
Yeah, but it's going to be fun to find that out, to see if they have the guts to bench the number 2 draft pick overall that they literally gave away half a team for.
I mean, that first season, he looked like he would be something fantastic.
Well, I mean,
he came in, he brought him to the playoffs for the first time in 5 or 6 years. He didn't go past the first round of the playoffs, but he still brought him to the playoffs.
He got hurt. That's
exactly
why. I mean, if he's not hurt, he looks like he can be a good player.
I think what they did wrong this year, and last year even, was they didn't let him do him. They didn't let him be the player he is. They tried to make him a pocket passer, which he can be good at, but that's not what he is. His threat is mobility, that triple option that he can run because of his mobility. And when you take that out of the Redskins playbook, RG3 is pretty much useless in that playbook.
I would say he's not. He's an average pocket.
He's mediocre at best.
Yeah, mediocre at best. Yeah, speaking on Sherman, he came out and San Diego came at him and said that they attacked him and they made him look weak, so to speak.
Philip Rivers said they didn't expose him, but they figured out how you could get past him, and he's more of a zone corner. He's not a man-on-man press corner.
I would beg to differ on that. He only gave up 50 yards to one guy in 69. He gave up 3 passes for a total of
I totally agree, but there was one play where he tried to play the press corner, and he just ended up turning around backwards looking for the guy to cut on the outside while he cut on the inside. I know you make mistakes. It happens. But that makes you look weak, and of course with Richard Sherman, the way he talks and the way he plays, he's going to be lit up for that.
Yeah, but I mean, you give up one play, like that.
He gave up 3 passes out of 7 targets, so that's obviously not exposing him. That's just showing there might be a weakness there somewhere.
It's saying he can't read every single route there is. I mean, so you're gonna get thrown on. You look at the best cornerbacks of all time; they did give up passes. It's not like somebody went their whole career without anybody ever catching a pass on them.
It's not like anybody had an explosive catch on him. It's not like anybody had a touchdown catch on him. He just gave up 3 mid-tier passes in the middle of the field.
And those people that said they exposed him had a combined total of 119 yards. Combined. It was 50. No, it might have been a little more. I think it was 124. I think one had 55, one had 69.
And they weren't all on him.
No,
because there was only 3 catches on him for maybe
so
like 37 yards.
You
or so.
exposed me, but you had no touchdowns on our whole defense, and you only had 124 yards total. It's a little ridiculous, I think. Our power rankings. We mentioned these a little bit ago.
Are really weird. I mean, the first 2 are obvious.
ESPN's are weird. ESPN's Broncos, Seahawks, Bengals, Eagles, Patriots, top 5. Then you got Panthers, 49ers, Packers, Cardinals, Chargers to round out the top 10. I guess we'll start. Who's your number 1?
Number 1's got to be the Broncos. Peyton Manning's looking just as good as he did last year. No, he didn't have the 7 touchdown passes in the first week, but in the first 2 weeks, he's got 6 touchdown passes, over 600 yards, and no interceptions, and a completion rating of about 70%. So.
And you also have to mention he didn't have Wes Welker for those.
And he doesn't have Wes Welker.
He
does now, but he didn't then. So he didn't have his number 1 receiver. He still obviously had Julius Thomas and Demaryius Thomas, which are 2 fantastic receivers.
Emmanuel Sanders.
But he did that with a different core, really, without Welker. And he's still playing phenomenally. Yeah. So he's only, I think, 8 touchdowns. No, he's 11 touchdowns away from the all-time record. He can tie Brett Favre with 3 more if he does it this week.
I don't think he's going to get 11. I think he's done.
I think he's not getting 11 touchdown passes the rest of the year. Yeah, he's done.
He's done.
He's peaked.
All right, so 2.
Seahawks, after that loss last week, it was against the Browns, right?
No. It was the Chargers.
The Chargers. I don't know how you can have a number 2.
Well, who's your 2? I'm asking your power ranking.
My number 2 right now has got to be the Eagles.
Eagles at 2?
I hate saying it, but yeah, the way they've been playing, they're playing a fantastic offense right now under Chip Kelly. Again, even without McCoy doing anything, they had Darren Sproles, their secondary back, coming in and having over 150 yards receiving, along with 50 yards rushing. McCoy did nothing in standards of McCoy. Nick Foles is still looking pretty prime. He doesn't look as good as he did last year, but who can go 21-0 on the touchdown interception ratio and carry that on to their next year? Their defense is looking good. I mean, yeah, they gave up 17 points 2 weeks in a row, and they barely beat the Colts. But the Colts are
a good team.
Are a good team. They might
for
be,
being 0-2. They're a great team.
I mean, they played the Saints and the Eagles.
No, they played at the Broncos.
The Broncos
yeah.
and the Eagles. If their defense can tighten up a little bit, I can see them overtaking the Broncos at some point this year. They are a Super Bowl favorite this year. And
who?
The
Eagles?
Yeah, the Eagles.
Oh, okay.
I see them overtaking the Broncos statistically if their defense can pull it together. You can't let the Jaguars score 17 points.
Well, see, my one fault, I have the Eagles a little lower, just because their first half is awful.
Yeah, their first half play, they are a second half playing.
They are.
Team. They're the opposite of the Cowboys on that
If
spectrum.
they get versed like a higher powered offense, I mean, yes, the Colts are, but the Colts don't have a running game. If they can get past either a team that just ground and pounds and just destroys the clock, like takes 15 minutes, or like teams that like to do that, or if they get versus like Peyton Manning, who can make you pay, I find it hard for them.
Yeah.
I find it hard for them to come back from that. But they're a very, very good team. Who's your 3?
My 3, it's oddly enough, it's got to be the Panthers.
Panthers at 3?
The Panthers are 2-0. Cam Newton has almost nobody out there except Calvin Benjamin, who's still a rookie. He was still able to throw almost 300 yards at 281 yards and a touchdown. They still have the solid defense that's playing. They took out the Detroit Lions, who are not a Super Bowl favorite, but a high-powered favorite.
In a high-powered offense.
Very high-powered offense.
I think they scored 6. I think that was the score of the Panthers-Lions game here. I think the Panthers had 18, and the Lions had
24-7. Yeah.
They had 7. You hold a high-powered offense like that to 7.
So, yeah, I got to put the Panthers at number 3 right now, especially the way they're just looking at a team where you thought they wouldn't be able to do anything on offense. and they're able to take on a high-powered team like the Lions. My number 4, probably the Bengals.
Bengals at 4. Okay.
They don't have AJ Green anymore. He's hurt.
Well,
he was hurt last game. That's
yeah.
it. And they were able to beat who did they beat? Click on that. Because I know it was a good team.
That was an okay team.
It was an okay team.
It was a Falcons.
Oh, it was a Falcons. So not only did they beat the Falcons, they showed them how it was played 24-10, and they still have Julio Jones and Roddy White, who are 2 high-powered receivers. So the Bengals' defense is looking good. Their offense is looking good even without their number 1 player. Andy Dalton isn't exactly a fantastic receiver, but he was able to hit Mohamed Sanu for that 78-yard bomb last
quarterback.
Yeah. So
their thing is a running game as well.
Yeah.
Gianarmi Bernard.
Bernard has been good.
He's been
Nobody saw it coming, and he's been good so far. It's only 2 weeks in, but 2 weeks in, I got the Bengals at number 4. And number 5, I'm probably going to have to go with the Cardinals. I don't like having people in my top 5 that aren't 2-0. I don't care how you lost, but if you're not 2-0, you can't say you're in the best if you aren't currently with the best record.
No, my only thing about the Cardinals is their competition that they've played isn't stellar. They beat the Giants
and San Diego.
San Diego they barely beat San Diego, but San Diego apparently is a better team than we were expecting, beating Seattle, obviously. But that's my only thing with the Cardinals.
Larry Fitzgerald is waking up. He hasn't done anything really the last year or two. And he didn't have a great game, but he had his first touchdown in like 8 games in the last game. He still had, I think, 80 yards receiving. So you do that and you throw it on top of their not stellar running back core, but they still have...
Well, yeah, they have 1 running back now.
They have
1 running back.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who it is.
His name escapes me.
It escapes me.
It starts with an A. Ellington.
Yeah. Andre Ellington, who I said I want you guys to recognize would be a blowout this year. Like he would come out and do something. Andre Ellington, he had 91 yards. His long was 22, so that means in 14 carries he was still able to amass over 70 yards. So Ellington coming out showing that maybe he wants to do something, even if it was against the Giants. But the Giants have a good defensive line. That's it. Their defensive line's all that's ever been good for them in their defense. And to be able to run almost 100 yards on them with 1 player, and then Jonathan Dwyer, who is currently suspended for assault.
Not suspended. He's not suspended.
He's in trouble.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So soon to be suspended.
Maybe.
No, he's going to be suspended, the way this is all going. So that's my top 5. And I know it's a really weird top 5. It's the Broncos, Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, Panthers, Bengals, and Cardinals.
All right, my top 5. All right, Broncos won, obviously. I think the Broncos are the best team in the league right now. We'll see how they fare against the Seahawks. But I think at this moment in time, they're head and shoulders above anybody else. I got the Bengals, too. The way they could still beat the Falcons, who just beat the Saints. The way they could beat them without A.J. Green, because he left in the first quarter.
With a stub toe, might I add.
Yeah. It's something that I didn't expect. I thought they were one-dimensional, but I think the way that the Gianarmi Bernard is running the ball and the way that Andy Dalton's finding receivers, I think they're number 2. Eagles 3, like I said, I just had them a little lower than you did, just because the second half is their part, but the first half they're just not there at all, which is a problem, a big problem nonetheless. I got the Seahawks 4. Yes, they lost. They lost to the Chargers, but the Seahawks are still there. The Seahawks are still. It was away. Seahawks are going to win at home when it matters. So I still have them 4. I'm not having them drop out of the top 5. The Panthers rounded out the top 5 for me. The way they won the first game without Newton, then they came back and Newton played well. The defense is playing really well. Kelvin Benjamin and Newton at some point are going to get the connection, and he's going to be competing for Rookie of the Year. Just because of the sheer size he is. And he'll be one of the better receivers.
And it's going to be competing because the receiver class this year is good. Like Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cook.
Yeah. But, I think Kelvin Benjamin will be the best receiver out of this class.
I don't know.
There's nobody else for Newton to throw to. And his size, he just has a sheer presence when he steps on the field.
There's nobody else on the Bills to throw to except Sammy Watkins.
But I like...
And his sheer size, he's 6'5".
I like Cam Newton over
AJ Manuel.
EJ Manuel, yeah. And I actually think Kelvin Benjamin's bigger than Sammy Watkins. I don't know if size-wise. Kelvin Benjamin is 6'5".
6'5", 240.
That's built.
That's a large man.
And that's why I think down the road he'll be able to kind of set himself. I see him as an Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I see him at the level. Sammy Watkins is only
6'1". Wow.
6'1" almost. Yeah. So like I said, his sheer size just is remarkable. But I see him, Alshon Jeffrey. If he gets really, really lucky, he's like a Julio Jones, a taller Julio Jones. He's not going to be Megatron level. He's not going to be AJ Green level. If he gets really, really, really good, maybe Brandon Marshall. You think Brandon Marshall is worse than Alshon Jeffrey, but I don't. I think Brandon Marshall is better. I see him as an Alshon Jeffrey.
Okay.
So that's my top 5. It was Broncos, Bengals, Eagles, Seahawks, Panthers. So who's your 6 through 10 now?
I gotta go. Now I'll put Seattle in. It's a 1-1.
6?
I can't put them that far down off of one loss, especially when it was a loss that was close. But it was who they lost to. They lost to San Diego.
Who only has an offense.
Exactly. So that's saying levels and levels for their offense. And when it came to rushing, Marshawn Lynch didn't really do anything last game. Last game he had a solid. I'll let you know in a second. Here we go. He had 6 rushes for 36 yards.
Which, I mean, I think that's something that the reason they lost. Because
you got to stick to the rush game.
They abandoned the rush game, so that's something that hurts them. Because Russell Wilson is a good quarterback, but for that system, I wouldn't say Russell Wilson is a outstanding quarterback. He's smart, but has an average arm.
Yep.
So you got to still run the ball because he can't make everything happen on his own. But go back, that was your 6. So
that's my 6. Number 7's got to be the Patriots. Tom Brady has not been looking great. He's been amassing maybe 200, 250 yards a game and 1 touchdown. But he just had his 149th win.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did just pass John Elway on the most wins.
And
as a
next week is his home opener. They're finally playing at home in Foxborough. They're playing the Raiders. Their defense isn't looking great. But
their defense looked better last week.
Exactly. That's why I'm putting him at number 7.
Which I do like their defense. Their
passing
7.
defense isn't bad.
No, they added Revis, who Revis has fallen off. We all know that, but he's still a cornerback that's at a better level. I think they added Talib as well. 2 corners that I really like. I think they're pretty good cornerbacks.
My number 8 has to probably be the Bears. Jay Cutler, Brandon Marshall, and Alshon Jeffrey, and then you throw in Matt Forte, who didn't do anything last game, but it's still Matt Forte. Their defense is starting to look solid. They're starting to get the middle linebacker back after losing Urlacher like 3 years ago. There it is. They're finally starting to get a defense that's surrounding a middle linebacker. They had a great win, like a nail-biting win last week.
Well, yeah, they came back over the 49ers.
And so I'm going to put them at 8th. So they're doing well. That hookup between Jay Cutler, he's looking to be healthy again, hitting Brandon Marshall. And
33 fantasy points for anybody that plays fantasy. That was not expected, especially for Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall. Sorry, going off on a tangent. Not even supposed to play.
And they did.
And Brandon Marshall caught like 3 touchdowns.
For only 54 yards, though, but still.
But 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Number 9, I'll probably have to go with the 49ers. I know that's a huge drop from number 3 last week, but you can't let, especially if your team is surrounding a defense, a solid defense, and then you're going to let in the last half 4 touchdowns go by to beat you.
And to also mention, their one win is against the Cowboys.
So, and the Cowboys have a good offense. I don't like the Cowboys. They're not clutch. They're not a second-half playing team.
They can run the ball.
But they can run, and they have a solid offense. But I'm going to have the 49ers at 9th. Kaepernick is still not – I don't live up to the hype with Kaepernick.
I don't like him either.
I don't dislike him, but I don't see why he gets so much for what he does.
I heard Colin Cowherd say something that I really liked. You don't want a guy leading your team who wears a backwards hat. He calls it the backwards hat syndrome. Think about everybody that wears a backwards hat to a press conference or around. Just name off some people that you know on regular basis wears a backwards hat.
Now or in history?
Well, like now, we'll go now.
Now, Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick. For a while, Tony Romo.
I know
Johnny Manziel
Johnny
does.
Manziel does. Cam Newton did for a little while.
Cam Newton did, but now he
Now he
doesn't. Now
doesn't.
he puts a towel on his head.
RG3 did for the first like 6 or 7 weeks.
Now, who do you want leading your team? Do you want any of those guys you just mentioned to be your franchise quarterback?
Cam Newton.
And now he doesn't do that. If you look at it, Russell Wilson, front hat. Tom Brady, frontward hat. Peyton Manning, front. You don't want somebody like that leading your team. It's weird to think about, but when you do, it makes a lot of sense.
All right, then we'll go with it. Frank Gore is still doing the Frank Gore thing. He's not looking great. He's only got 130 yards on the season so far and 1 touchdown. It's 2 weeks in though. But Anquan Boldin and Michael Crabtree have showed up. Both of them amassing over 100 yards this season, with only 10 or 9 receptions apiece. I think while they're not that high up in the standings for the NFC West, or they're number 3 behind Seattle and Arizona, both of which I have above them, that play against the Cowboys is not the Cowboys. That play against the Bears is what really brought them down for me. So that's why I'm gonna have them at number 9
and 10.
Number 10, I'm gonna have the Chargers, which is exactly how ESPN has them. Antonio Gates looked nice. Their defense not too shabby. They did just beat Seattle, so that's obviously saying a lot for them on their offense being able to power through one of the most high-powered defenses in the game.
Antonio Gates still plays. Don't know if anybody knew that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And that's the first time that the Seahawks have been beaten in 11 games, and so that shows that they're able to take down big teams, and they play to the level of competition, so that's why I'm going to have them at number 10.
All right, my 6th, I'm going with the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals, like Tyler mentioned, their quarterback, I don't like the quarterback situation they have. Carson Palmer, he's okay. He didn't play last week out of randomness. I don't know what happened there. But he didn't play. They still won. They can run the ball pretty well. I like their defense. I think they have the second best cornerback in the league. Patrick Peterson, also one of the most explosive return men in the league.
If not the most explosive, behind maybe Hester.
Or Percy Harvin.
Or Sproles.
Harvin. Yeah.
If he's not injured.
So one of the best. So that's why I have them 6. I think we got to see them play a little tougher teams, as I mentioned when Tyler brought them up. 7. I'll put the Patriots. No. I'm going to put. I'll put the Bears 7. I think the Bears came out of the gates thinking they were better than they were, and that's why they lost. I like the comeback win on the 49ers. There's no way I'd have the 49ers above them the way that the 49ers played against the Bears. Cutler had an amazing game, and I think he has the capability to do that often because of just the weapons around him. Forte, like you mentioned, run it 3 times, or play action once over the top to Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, or even a little screen pass. Just the offense is amazing for them, and that's something they've kind of been missing for a while. They've always kind of had the defense with Urlacher, as you mentioned, but I think their offense there now, that's why I have them 7. 8? 8. Let's go. I'm giving the Bills some love. I'm giving the Bills some love. I think the Bills are for real.
That'll all depend on this week. If they beat the Bears at home, they're for real. If they can't beat the Bears at home, they're good, but they're not.
I like the Bills. Nobody's on the Bills bandwagon. I'll jump on.
They jumped from 23rd to 12th in the power rankings.
They
this
did.
Week after
They
a win
did.
Over,
but I'm putting them 8. I mean, they beat Miami, who Miami beat the other team in their division, the Patriots, pretty handedly.
Yeah, it wasn't just a win. It was a.
And they beat Chicago. They played San Diego.
Yeah, they're playing San Diego.
They beat Chicago in overtime, but Chicago just.
And that was at Chicago, by the way. That was at Lambeau.
So.
Wow, that's the Packers. Woo!
Man, you're going to get some hate mail for that one.
Yeah, I am. Wow.
The Bills beat Chicago. They beat Miami, both 2 good teams.
And they're in the top 8 for. They're number 7 for rushing yards, and they're number 5 for rushing yard defense. So they've got something going on with the rush there.
I really like the Bills. 8. I like them there. I'm going with it. I'm sticking with it. 9th, I've got the Packers. I'll put the Packers 9th. I don't like the way they played the first game. It was really bad. The second game, they started off really, really slow against the Jets, but they pulled out in the end. Aaron Rodgers had a game we expect from him, 346 yards, a couple touchdowns, and Jordy Nelson had the game of his career. I think
209 yards.
200 something. He only had a touchdown, which okay, but 209 yards, that's something you don't see very often from a receiver. I think they're putting it back together offensive wise. That's why I got him 9. And 10, I'll stay with the Chargers. The Chargers, they got a high-powered offense. We'll see what they can do against the Bills, who have apparently a really good defense.
So you don't have the 49ers in the top 10 right now?
Nope.
No.
No. I think they beat the Cowboys, who I think we both sat here and said the Cowboys are 8-8.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. Number 11, though, that's where I'm going to have to put the Bills.
11?
Yeah, I mean, they're right outside the top 10. They're proving that there's something, but they don't have enough for me to – they don't have that one breakout player right now. They have Fred Jackson. They have C.J. Spiller. C.J. Spiller had a 107-yard touchdown return.
They have Sammy Watkins.
They've got Sammy Watkins, but they don't have someone to coordinate it.
Yeah.
They don't have that team leader, that franchise face that you look at and say, oh, this is the Bills.
That's why that's one reason why it's a little hard. E.J. Manuel, is he the real deal? It's hard to say that.
So I'm going to have them at 11. That's a lot to where I had them at the beginning of the season. I had them in the lower 20s at the beginning of the season. I had them at 11 now. If they can go 4-0, I'll put them in the top 10. But right now,
You won't even put them in at 3-0?
3-0
Beating
because
the
they're playing
Chargers?
San Diego.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
they beat the Seahawks, yeah. But the Seahawks had no offense. This is going to be the opposite. This is the Bills with a lot of offense that nobody really sees how. It's a bunch of uncoordinated talent, and they're somehow coordinating it. Number 12, I'm going to put the Texans.
Oh, we're going to 15?
Yeah, let's go to 15,
Okay.
and then we'll finish up there. I'm putting 12 as the Texans.
Okay.
J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, that's a disgusting defensive line. Add them to the fact that every time they've gone to the red zone, they've scored a touchdown.
Even J.J. Watt got a touchdown.
Exactly. He had a 1-yard touchdown catch. This is a completely different Texans than last year. It's the same Texans, but the different Texans. They're able to finish this year.
It's a different coach, and the quarterback, even though Fitzpatrick isn't good, he has confidence.
They're putting it together because of confidence and coordination and finishing. What they couldn't do last year was they couldn't finish. They gave up, in the first 7 games they gave up 7 touchdown pick sixes off of the opposing defense. This year they're not doing that, so I'm gonna have them at a solid 12.
Okay.
13 is the Colts. They're 0-2 against the Saints and the Eagles, which are 2 high-powered offenses. I give them that, but you have to see defense in this league. And if you can't give out defense, I'm not going to put you in the top 10, especially if you're 0-2. I like Andrew Luck a lot. I like what they're doing with Ahmad Bradshaw and Trent Richardson finally coming together and figuring out the run game. Reggie Wayne, I think he's number 9 in receptions all time. T.Y. Hilton, the explosive new kid coming in. They have something there, but I'm putting them at 13th until they can figure out their defense. 14th is the Saints, because it's still the Saints. Last week they're number 6. This week they lost to the Browns, which is terrifying.
And we had a Johnny Manziel sighting.
Yep, he didn't do anything, but he was there. He handed it off 3 times.
And threw an incompletion.
Exactly. That's what you get for wearing a backwards hat. But the Saints, their defense is still there. They did play one high-powered offense and one offense that's coming together somehow. The Browns are not the real deal, but they're showing up, and it's weird. But I'm going to put the Saints at 14, and I'm going to give the Browns some love this week. I'm going to put them at 15. The Browns, everything's coming together for them. Jordan Cameron's continuing to be that fantastic tight end that they've been looking for. They don't really have much in that rush game, but that'll come together. Their wide receivers, Josh Gordon's still on suspension. He's actually a car salesman right now until he comes back. That's what you get for trying to get your wife pregnant. They beat the Saints. That should speak a lot of volume. Are they 1-1 or are they 0-2 or 2-0?
The Browns?
Yeah.
They're 1-1. They lost to the Steelers week 1.
Yeah. So the Steelers are not too bad. Terrence West is coming out and doing stuff. They're not great on defense at all. They're in the bottom 25 on defense, but their rushing is looking good with Terrence West and Isaiah Crowell, both of them amassing. I think one of them actually had 100 yards last week, 90 yards last week against the Saints, which is supposed to be a high-powered offense and defense. So I'm gonna give the Browns some love, and I'm gonna put them at 15 right now.
All right, my 11 is the Texans.
Texans.
When we sat on the show and did our who's gonna have what record. I had the Texans pretty good. I like the Texans. They have a really, really good defense. Yes, they played the Redskins with RG3. And the Raiders. This week they play the Giants. First 3 games were pretty easy for them. Then they'll play the Bills, depending on how you still see the Bills. Maybe an easy game. Then they play Dallas, another game. They can easily go 5-0. They really can. Then they play Indianapolis, a harder game.
And that's going to really test them out to see how Houston actually is looking this year.
But I mean,
that 3 weeks is what's going to hurt them.
If you really look at it, though, I think Indianapolis, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, those are the only games where it's like, yes, they're going to lose. The rest of them, they've got a shot. Pittsburgh, they've got a shot. Tennessee, they should win that.
Tennessee's actually not been looking too bad.
No, they haven't, but I think Houston's better.
Yeah.
Cleveland, they should win that. Tennessee, again, they should win that. Jacksonville twice, they should win both of those. Baltimore, that's a tough one, but I think they can win that. I mean, so 11 for them.
It's solid for now, especially coming into week 3.
12, going with the Dolphins. Going with the Dolphins at 12. They had a great win the first week, beat the Patriots. They lost to the Bills, who I had top 10 in the 8th spot. So a good team. I still think Miami's pretty good. Got them at 12. Think they're going to come out this week and do well. I just went away from who they were playing.
They're playing Kansas City.
I think they'll be Kansas City. I like the chances there. And actually, the Patriots are in trouble. Because if you think about it, the Bills are for real, and I think the Dolphins are. That's going to be a tough division.
It's going to be hard to get the wild card in, even for the AFC.
Yeah. 13, I'll put the 49ers. All the way at 13. They were 3rd on ESPN last week. They're 7 now, but I think they're not that good. They lost at home to the Bears.
Bears.
They beat the Cowboys 28-17, but the Cowboys weren't running at the time. The Cowboys ran the ball last week and did very well.
Yes, they did. Thank you, DeMarco Murray.
They won.
Just a special shout-out to DeMarco Murray in case he ever listens to the best radio sports show in the world. You have saved 3 of my leagues this year, even 2 weeks in. So thank you, buddy.
And if Adrian Peterson's watching, why?
Then stop beating your kids.
Why? But Dallas just... I don't think Dallas is that good. So to say, oh, well, they have 1 win, I can't put them that high. That's why I got them at 13. 14... I'll put the Colts. They're 0-2. I don't like that, but they don't have a defense like Tyler mentioned. But their offense is very good. I think they put up 30-plus points, right around there. 24 and 27, so they're right around 25, 26 a game, 25.5. But they've given up 30. They've given up 31 to Denver and 31 to the Eagles. But if you think about it, those are both high-powered offenses.
Very high-powered. So their defense is there, but it's not a clutch defense.
No, not at all.
They were up 21-7 over the Eagles, and the Eagles came back and beat them. So.
But we did mention the Eagles are a second-half team.
They are, but you have to keep that second-half defense if you want to win games.
And to round it out, top 15. 15th, I'm going to have...
The Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders. No... I'm going to put the Lions. I don't like the Saints this year. I'm not a fan of the Saints this year. The Lions lost to the Panthers pretty convincingly, 24-7. The offense wasn't there. They did beat the Giants. I just talked about strength of schedule with the 49ers. I know. I think they beat the Packers this week. And
the Jets and possibly the Bills.
Yep, Minnesota.
It's a rough schedule for them this year.
Yeah, it is. But I think right now, if the high-powered offense, I mean, Megatron had, I think, under 100 yards rushing. Or receiving.
He had, I think, like 54 yards receiving.
That's not going to happen again.
Yeah, thankfully, I'm not playing him next week. I played him this week, but yeah.
That's not going to happen again. So that's why I have the Lions at
15.
And just a quick game of the week. Who do you think it is, and why?
Game of the week, I'm going to have to go with Green Bay at Detroit.
Okay.
I know actually no, I'm going to go with Washington and Philadelphia.
Okay.
Washington is going to figure out their new offense with Kirk Cousins instead of RG3, see how that plays out.
A better offense, I think.
Yeah, a better offense. If they beat Philadelphia, it could mean something significant for the Redskins. And now Philadelphia's going to come in against a team that's showing off they're more high-powered without their high-powered quarterback. And it could show maybe Philadelphia, if they falter against Washington, that's really going to shake up the entire NFC and even favorites for the playoffs.
It also is a coming home for
DeSean
Jackson. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to be a great game.
All right.
Tune into Fox at 1 o'clock.
My game of the week, the obvious game of the week, Denver at Seattle. One of us had to choose it.
Yeah, I get it. I was going with the bold pick game of the week.
So, I mean, Denver at Seattle, that's the obvious one, so I'm not going to choose it, actually.
No, we got to go with it. So we'll put that as the obvious one. What's your
my game of the week, that's your 425. That's when you have to watch at 425. So I'll go either, so you got the 1 o'clock.
Yep.
And I'll go with the off time. I'll go Pittsburgh at Carolina. I think that's a big game for both of them. Pittsburgh's at 1-1, Carolina's at 2-0. The Carolina right now is got kind of a hold on that division, although the Texans are doing okay. But the Saints are 0-2. The Falcons are 1-1. Pittsburgh's at 1-1. The whole division's tied, except the Browns. No, the whole division's tied except the Bengals are 2-0. So that's a big game for the Steelers. It's a big game for the Panthers, and that's 8:30 NBC.
And, of course, the obvious game of the week, it's going to have to be Denver at Seattle. It's the Super Bowl replay. It's going to see if the Broncos are willing to get completely and utterly embarrassed by the Seahawks again. And the Seahawks coming off that loss against San Diego, and the Broncos coming in off of a good win, a solid win last week. Going to see what happens. It's going to shape up pretty much both sides. If the Broncos lose, that's going to be something big for the AFC. And if Seattle loses, they go down to 1-2.
Yeah, it'll be a big game. We'll have to see how it pans out.
And are they playing in Seattle?
It's at Seattle.
So if Seattle loses, that's also going to be their first loss at home.
Yeah, so it's that's going to be a big game, but that's about all the time we have.
So, I mean, you guys should definitely stay tuned for Mitch and Numbers next here on WODU, the best in college radio. I'm Tyler.
I'm Alex, and even though Mitch and Numbers is on, we are still the best sports radio show.
We got to give props for maybe second best
in the world.
But
they're a distant second.
They're
distant.
They are mediocre at best.
I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good.
I'm gonna go. They're like a. They're like a Denver. They're like a Denver's wide receivers. Like, they're pretty good, but I mean, I'm Richard Sherman, so I'm the greatest.
They're like Michael Crabtree to our Richard Sherman.
Yeah, it's the way it is.
But no, stay tuned to listen in on them. I'm Tyler, and obviously right next to me is Alex, because he holds down the show when I can't get here on time.
Because I'm the greatest.
He's the greatest secondary host we have. So thanks for tuning in to Cup Check, guys. We will see you Tuesday to give you the entire facts. Maybe we'll have it all set up to see if we're doing the hour and a half or 2 hours again next week.
And we'll talk about what happens with Dwyer.
Yeah. And AP. Follow us on Twitter at CupCheck_radio. Add us on Facebook and become a fan at CupCheck Radio. And then, of course, that Instagram Alex keeps talking about up at CupCheck_radio. One more time. I'm Tyler.
I'm Alex.
And you're listening to the best sports show in the world here on WODU, the best in college radio. Have a good night, guys.